And the live stream is active.
Okay, well, we'll get started. The chair hereby calls to order the January 22nd, 2025 meeting of the Kansas Governmental Ethics Commission. Welcome back, commissioners and staff. In your materials, you have the agenda and the minutes from our meeting back on November 20th. Can anyone identify any corrections that need to be made to either the agenda or minutes as written?
In the minutes, I was present at the meeting.
Noted. Is there anything else that anyone can identify in the minutes that requires correction? If there are no other changes to note, I will take a motion to approve as amended.
So moved. Second.
Motion has been seconded. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the motion to approve the agenda and minutes as amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The motion passes. Turning to today's agenda, we will begin with an executive director's report. Director Skoglund.
Good afternoon. Thanks everyone for being here. This will be my last meeting with the Ethics Commission. My last day will be February 14th in office, which means the commission needs to begin looking for a new director. We're going to have the position posted hopefully by the end of the day today, maybe early tomorrow at the latest. But I appreciate all the work that all of you have put in. I really appreciate working with all of you. I'm excited for a new opportunity that I have as CFO over at BIDS. And I hope that all of you will stay in touch. But thank you very much. In terms of procedure, here's how this goes. The day of my departure, the chair will appoint an interim director. That appointment will be ratified at the next commission meeting. In the interim, while all this is happening, applications will be received. Historically, the commission has appointed a 3-member subcommittee to do a first round of screeners and then had the finalists meet with the full commission. There are ways to do this so that the meeting gets the meeting occurs and then recesses to, or I believe they would call an executive. It would be a recess session, or would be an executive. It's an executive session because of the personnel matter to conduct the interviews. And we can, staff and I are going to help administer that process as well. But if that is the course the commission wants to go through, then the identifying the 3-member subcommittee, I think, is an important first step. Historically, I think the chair and vice chair were usually on that. That doesn't have to necessarily be the case. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for all of your effort and your dedication to the state of Kansas. I can't thank enough. The last 7.5 years really have been amazing, and I am extremely lucky, and we are all extremely lucky to have the staff in this office that we do. They are experienced, they're dedicated, they're brilliant, and honestly, they are some of the best people you'll ever encounter anywhere. So Kansas as a whole is lucky to have them. Thanks.
Well, Mark, let me be the first to say thank you for your years of service for the Ethics Commission. I know that it has at times been tough, but you have persevered through that. And I think that the commission in my tenure has been quite productive. And I just want to thank you and wish you the best of luck as you make the next step in your career. So I just want to also acknowledge your letter of resignation, which I do on behalf of the commission accept. And just to pinpoint, I guess, next steps, your last day is going to be February 15th. Is that correct?
That's technically the Saturday,
Okay.
But the way the payroll transition happens, I will start technically on a Sunday is how it's technically written, even though I'm not in office until the Monday. So
Okay.
yes, so the resignation is effective as of February 15th, which is the Saturday, technically.
And so the chairperson will pick the interim director. Do you have any recommendations with respect to an interim director? Or is it premature at this time?
If I haven't had a lot of conversations, but I think that the person best situated to be the interim director would be Ms. Bull-Stewart, if she would so like to be the interim director. She's positioned in the office to have been engaged in legislation, the budget, all the things that you need to be in order to handle being an interim director, especially early in a legislative session. So that would be my recommendation, but conditioned on obviously your selection, of course, and whether or not she would be interested. But that interim appointment would occur on February or effective February 16th, whatever, whoever you choose to appoint.
With respect to a subcommittee, do we have any volunteers in the commission that would wish to be a part of that subcommittee? If not, we'll just consider, we currently have a subcommittee right now for the recusal regulation.
I'm happy to do it if no one else is willing.
Okay. We'll give it some thought and let's say by the end of this meeting, try to have some guidance. Is there anything else we need to say in this regard at this moment in time before we proceed to the lobbyist update? Or do any commissioners have questions or comments?
Yeah, some procedural questions. I know that our complainant in all of our proceedings is our director. So is there a procedure that's in place to replace that individual as the complainant? And then how do we procedurally deal with the individual who swore is now no longer employed?
We would transfer, we'd file motions to transfer the complainant to the new or to the interim director or to our investigator, depending on circumstance, and they would sign a similar document.
So everything would need to be re-executed then?
It would be, yes.
And then how do we deal with if Ms. Full Stewart is interested and it's the chairman's selection that she served as counsel, then will be swearing and then would be presumably replaced and become counsel again?
She would not be the complainant in that instance, since she obviously has been the general counsel through these proceedings. In that situation, the complainant would be the investigator, which has occurred in the past as well.
So for new complaints, if they were.
Well, the current complaints would transfer to Scott.
Okay.
You wouldn't be able to be the complainant then?
Right.
Yeah.
On current complaints.
Any complaint, because then she wouldn't be able to counsel.
Correct.
Right, yes.
Okay.
I know we have a recess session later in this meeting, but before we discuss any of this in too much detail or substance, should we consider a recess session earlier?
It would be an executive session.
Executive session, to start brainstorming some of these points. In terms of
Maybe so.
open-ended litigation, et cetera.
Right.
I'm not saying we have to do it now, I just don't want to get too far down this road.
We can also call a special meeting to explicitly discuss this as well. And pursuant to the Open Meeting Act, as long as we give notice, the commissioners can meet virtually, and as long as we have this public place open for members of the public to attend, we could have an open meeting. You all can recess to an executive session, council present, discuss these sorts of things. It's kind of just up to you all.
Okay,
So we have options.
okay, that's helpful, thanks.
Well, I'm not opposed, Commissioner Jackson, or Commissioner Berger, you have a comment?
Just again, still kind of thinking out loud a little bit, but you know, with seems like also just as someone who tangentially deals with employment law periodically, that the more respectfully practical approach is to accept the resignation. It would be effective for pay purposes all the way through whatever it is, February 13th. But as far as in the office, as far as authority and that sort of things, effective immediately. So, you know, and that sounds awfully hard. I should first say, I'm appreciative of everybody who serves in public service and appreciative of, you know, the efforts that you've put forward. But thinking in terms of the commission itself and having a director who's still a director, but doesn't have, you know, any further accountability, I suppose, to the commission, it seems more appropriate to say, again, thank you. We appreciate you. We'll pay you for that entire time period. But as far as last day in office,
I think that he should go ahead and serve out his term, and I would be opposed to him to his effective authority being terminated today. I think we should continue to serve. You know, his resignation takes effect.
I would only comment that I think this is an interesting discussion, and Chairman Hale may warrant what Ms. Paul Stewart was suggesting we could do, which is to move into an executive or
Yeah.
recess now.
What, why don't we give ourselves an opportunity to talk? Commissioner Jackson, how much time would we want to take for an executive session in your view?
Maybe 20 minutes to be safe.
Would we want to do the hearings first so they're not delayed?
Well, I think the commissioners, I'm not speaking.
I don't know.
Well, yeah, let's just get through the material. And then as soon as the civil hearings are done, then we will just have, let's say, a two-prong executive session. So is that okay?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I think that makes
So
sense.
We will have.
We'll just kind
yeah.
of table some of these issues for now, and unless there are any other comments, I would ask Executive Director Scoglin to proceed with the lobbyist update.
Sure. So the lobbyists, for the January 10th lobbyist report, there were 1,209 lobbying reports that needed to be filed. Only 11 failure to files had to go out, which is less than 1%. We can thank Jessica White for her dedicated efforts to keep the lobbyist community in line. We're very lucky to have Jessica on staff, and also the lobbyist community is great to work with as well. That's all I've got for the lobbyist update. Any questions?
Okay, the next item on the agenda is to just note for the record some civil penalty assessments. There are quite a few, and they're all laid out on the agenda. Do you wish to comment on these, Director Scoglin?
No.
I do have questions.
Sure.
Just for later in the meeting. On page 8 of the packet, like on page 8, this is the candidates and treasurers civil penalties. And it cites KSA 254152 and then gives the rule, it gives a rule for a formula for penalties. And then the next page cites the same law, but it has a different formula.
That is correct.
So when does one apply? That's what I'm getting at.
Sure. So the old civil penalties were that you had 15 days of grace period, and then after that you had, for every day that it is late, you're assessed a $10 penalty up to $300. In 2018, they increased these amounts specifically for the original filing of the July and October election reports.
For this year.
For any year. So if a report is one that is for a primary or general election, there's only a 2-day grace period. The first day of the penalty is $100 and then $50 a day up to $1,000. So it's the same statute, but there's different approaches depending on the nature of the report.
And then what changed that? That was
2018, the legislature changed that.
the legislature changed it. Okay.
They did.
And then the other question is, we have this other, if I can find it here. The election sensitive late report guidance document.
Yes.
So when does that kick in?
That's for when complaints are filed. Essentially, if a report is filed after the election, or essentially after it's late, but it's one that the public had a right to know and might have been relevant to their election decisions.
But shouldn't that have affected everybody in these two things?
These are civil penalties. We're not talking, those are separate from complaints and civil fines.
Civil penalties are like a late fee,
Right.
essentially. And a fine is,
Right, I get
oh,
that,
sorry.
but I mean,
I can't comment in open session whether or not we have filed complaints on any of these individuals.
okay, that's where I'm
25,
going with this.
161. I
Because
understand.
It's affecting what my hearing's about. So
I understand.
that's why I'm asking the question.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is civil penalty waiver requests, and I believe we have just the one. Director Scoglin, do you wish to walk us through this?
Yes, it's one that is for $650 for a late filing of a PAC report. They were assessed $650. It was ultimately received on November 19th and was originally due on October 28th. They assert medical circumstances.
What are the dates again?
It was originally due on October 28th, and the report was received on November 19th. So they were assessed $650. They assert a medical waiver as the category, and they included some supplemental documents. In my view, this waiver request is consistent with the intention of the commission in creating that medical avenue for waiver requests, and I support the waiver in full.
So it'd go from 650 to nothing?
Yes. That would be my recommendation.
And the records do show that there was a medical event of an immediate family member from that kind of mid-October for quite a while.
Yes.
I would assume that's all HIPAA are constrained on any release.
Pursuant to our previous discussions, when we were creating the guidance document for what good cause means, we aren't including these in the open meetings, in the open meeting materials, and we would redact them to the extent required that we can do by law.
Because there's a lot of detail there I didn't think we needed, but
That's a little awkward, yeah.
Yes.
But it's, I mean,
it proved the point.
Frankly, I'm impressed they had their report submitted on November 19th at all.
I would move that we waive this civil penalty in full.
Second,
Motion has been seconded. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the motion to waive in full signify by saying aye.
aye.
All opposed say nay. The motion passes. The next item we have on the agenda is civil fine hearings. However, I have one other topic that I wish to raise. What time do we have the hearings scheduled for, Ms. Bull Stewart?
1:30.
Okay. Mr. Josh Nye, who I believe is in the room, has requested 5 minutes to address the commission.
Respectfully, Commissioner
go
Hale,
ahead.
I would like to have a conversation in executive session with the commission first before Mr. Nye speaks.
Okay. Well, given that we have some time, we can go into executive session now, and we can just maybe schedule to end it at 1:30. So we give ourselves at least 13 minutes to begin a discussion. We can always go back in. Does that seem like a fair approach? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I have- Get the motion for whoever.
Oh,
It's been edited by the Attorney General. Yes.
excuse me.
Yes.
Commissioner Glenn, will you do us the
I
honors?
don't want to. I move that the commission recess this open meeting to executive session. The subject to be discussed during the executive session is the commission's state district court litigation. The justification for closing the meeting is the need for consultation with the commission's counsel about matters that would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship as contemplated by KSA 754319B2. Office Manager Paige Quintana Padgett, sorry. Executive Director Mark Skoglund, General Counsel Caitlin Bull Stewart, and Conflict Counsel Jesse Burris are to be admitted to the executive session to aid the commission in its discussion. The open meeting shall be resumed at 1:30.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Any additional discussion? All in favor of approving the motion to enter into executive session signify by saying aye.
I don't know.
Oh, we
You've
have 5.
communicated with them, so
We have
We've got
5
time.
minutes.
Yeah.
we'll give them
Yeah.
5.
And you'll admit them if they come in this.
Yes.
meeting. Yeah. They might have been.
Let us know
confused.
when we're ready.
We are ready.
Okay, before we begin with our civil fine hearings, I wanted to acknowledge the request made by Mr. Nye for 5 minutes to make comments to the commission. If he is in the room and available, I would ask that he do so now, and that we just reiterate the importance of the temporal constraint, the 5 minutes, given the hearings and the remaining topics that we have to discuss today. In order to make the best use of everyone's time, I would ask Mr. Nye that you limit your remarks to no more than 5 minutes. With that, I hand it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is really just a procedural thing. So I represented many clients in front of the commission. Some of those have been in court. I did give notice to litigation counsel for all the things that are currently in court that I was going to make this request, and they didn't have a problem with that today. But really, this procedural question with respect to other clients doesn't have to do with anything that's pending litigation. In February of 2022, I received, or my clients received, subpoenas that were issued under a prior law. That law has since been changed regarding the procedural statute for subpoenas. And we ended up representing 16 different clients that have received administrative subpoenas issued in February, at the February 2022 meeting, and then later served in March. And at least 8 to 10, I think, are still pending. They've kind of been in limbo for 3 years. In one month from tomorrow, they'll be have been issued, but no action taken on them as far as an order to enforce in court or anything like that for 3 years. Those clients would like resolution to that. There's nothing stopping the commission from issuing administrative subpoenas in the future under the revised statute. But with respect to these subpoenas, I think there's a good argument that they're stale. It has kind of chilled, so to speak, their activities for 3 years now, and they've asked me to respectfully request that the commission withdraw or recall those subpoenas. Because it's a confidential matter, that's why I'm here today. I don't really know the procedure. There isn't a case number associated with the subpoenas. It is confidential at this point because it's prior to any complaint. And so I wanted to be able to submit an application to recall those subpoenas under seal. And so just wanting some direction from the commission regarding a clerk or someone who I should file that with, especially since there's already kind of an adverse relationship as with the investigatory staff and those seeking the information. So that's all I wanted to say today is I don't know how to do it. And if there's a way to submit that under seal, I'd love some direction.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for those comments. I guess as a commission, we will consider those comments and try to provide you with some actionable guidance as soon as possible. So this will just be one other matter that we need to discuss in executive session. Is there anything else before we proceed with the hearings? Turning to the agenda, we begin with complaints 786 and 787. Remind me who the hearing officer is in both of these matters?
Me, Earl.
Okay. Commissioner Glenn, I will hand things over to you so you can proceed with both of these complaints.
Mr. Hearing Officer, she's going to go try to call Mr. Freeshow.
We only have one respondent present for,
They're not together?
I will
Oh,
check.
So
but
they're not
no,
together?
she said they're not, so. I
okay,
will
so we, okay, so we
Ma'am,
need to pause
give
briefly.
them a phone
Yeah,
call.
let's, yeah.
Yeah,
Is that what the problem was?
Yeah,
It was the other.
we did test the technical issue though.
It has been tested.
That has been
He
tested.
has to pull over to it.
Oh, goodness. I'll tell. I'll be right back. Sorry.
Earl, how do you come to Topeka? On the turnpike or Highway 10?
We 10 anymore.
That's it.
That's unless KU's playing basketball or something. I'll go north.
Do you then get on the turnpike at
The west side of town.
The complex.
Yeah.
I hope that's in the minutes.
Travel discussion.
It's,
Hearing Officer Glenn's.
it's all documented anyway. She already has the documentation for it.
That's my path too. That's how I get here.
That's what Google told me to do.
That's all I ever do.
It wasn't my intuition, but.
Oh, she.
Here's the respondent is logging in right now.
Okay.
You should be getting on here shortly.
Okay.
I see him swear him in the,
He's working on it.
yeah, I know.
Oh, we did test.
I'm on here now. Do I need to turn on video yet?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we need less.
Second. Hello.
Excellent. Love it.
Ready then?
Perfect. I think we are,
Do we need to wait for Justin?
yes. What is? Awesome.
1 moment, please.
Got one.
That's good. Oh, he's on the phone. It's fine. Is it okay to go next? Or Commissioner Hale?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Earl Glenn. I've been appointed the presiding officer before the Kansas Governmental Ethics Commission in the matter of Mark Skoglund, Executive Director of the Commission, complainant versus respondent Christopher Parisho for complaint 786 and Melissa Stout, complaint 787. In our pre-hearing conference, we decided we could combine these since the evidence was primarily the same between both parties. So I hereby call this hearing to order, or we're continuing from November. Would the parties please enter their appearances, beginning with the complainant? Caitlin.
Yeah, Caitlin Bull Stewart appears on behalf of the complainant, Mark Skoglund, Executive Director. Mark Skoglund, as Executive Director, also appears as witness.
So let the record show respondents Christopher Parisho and Melissa Stout are appearing via video call. Would you please introduce yourself?
My name's Christopher Parisho.
I am Melissa Stout.
Thank you. So the hearing will be conducted according to the provisions of the Kansas Administrative Procedure Act. The applicable burden of proof is that affirmative findings of fact by the commission shall be based on clear and convincing evidence. Next, I will present a brief procedural summary. The hearing is being recorded, therefore responses to questions must be verbal, as the audio-video recorder does not pick up nods, unclear responses, and other gestures. Complainant will provide an opening statement. Respondents may choose to provide an opening statement after the complainant's opening statement or reserve their opening statement until after the complainant has presented evidence. Do I go to all this, Jeffy?
Script as much as possible, whatever's not applicable, you know.
Well, this is just the overview of the whole hearing now. Okay. So complainant will present evidence subject to cross-examination where appropriate. The commission is not bound by technical rules of evidence. Commissioners, some here in the room and some on video, may ask questions during each side's presentation of evidence subject to my discretion. Respondents may provide opening statements after the complainant. Respondents may present evidence subject to questions by commissioners and subject to cross-examination where appropriate. After each side's presentation of evidence, complainant will provide a closing statement. Then the respondent may provide a closing statement after the complainant. After closing statements, the commission shall deliberate and will issue an order within 30 days, including findings of facts and conclusions of law. As a presiding officer, I may allow the parties to submit proposed orders within 7 days of this hearing date. And if appropriate, I may keep this hearing open and allow the parties to submit briefings within 30 days of this hearing. The commission will meet as soon as practicable after the submission of any such briefs in order to deliberate further. So at this time, we'll proceed with the opening statement from the complainant's counselor.
Thank you. So this is a fairly simple matter. Mr. Parashow, apologies if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Mr. Parashow was a candidate in the 2024 election cycle for state representative, and Miss Melissa Stout was his treasurer. This relates to our election sensitive guidance document, which states that just because a report is filed, if it is an election sensitive, which means the candidate were to be on the ballot in that election, and it was if it was just filed, then that is not a justification to dismiss this complaint. There is only one sub issue for dispute. The parties have filed stipulations of fact that the commission has had since the November meeting, establishing things such as jurisdiction. But the only sub issue that we are here today is whether the facts, facts with the report was actually sent on the date of the filing deadline or not. The evidence will show that the commission's fax logs do not show a fax from the number on respondents' fax activity report that they presented and that the commission has access to. The parties enter stipulations, as I mentioned, establishing jurisdiction, and then the respondents also in their stipulations indicated they received notice of the hearing. They're also here. Appreciate them appearing in person. And at the end of the day, the executive director's position is that we did not receive the facts that contained the report. So we did not receive the July receipts and expenditure report until August 9th, which was 3 days after the election.
So thank you, Counselor. So respondents, Mr. Parisho and Ms. Stout, you can make opening statements now or wait until after the counselor has presented evidence and then do your whole thing at one time. So which would you prefer, opening statements now?
I think I'll wait until after I hear what they have to say and then I'll do mine.
Okay. So we will go on to the presentation of evidence by the commissioner.
Ms. Stout as well.
Ms. Stout, could you confirm that you want to make an opening statement now, or do you want to wait until after evidence has been presented?
I'll wait.
Okay. So we have a presentation of evidence by complainant's counsel.
First, I would like to swear in my first witness. I'd like to call the complainant, with your permission to swear him in,
Sure.
for his testimony regarding the complaint.
You do solemnly swear, sincerely and truly declare and affirm that the testimony you shall give in the matter of issue shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And this you do under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Thank you. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Mark Skoglund, the Executive Director of the Kansas Governmental Ethics Commission.
First, I would like to walk through, let's back up for a second. First, do you have a copy of the complaint?
I do.
And are all the facts listed in the complaint? Actually, do you have a copy of each complaint in front of you?
I do.
For complaint 786, has anything changed based on the allegation or in the allegations?
No.
For complaint 787, has anything changed based on the allegations?
No.
First, I want to talk through the report at issue. This has already been provided to the commissioners and to the respondents, but I have paper copies as well. It is in the electronic folder.
And which report is that?
This is the July 29th, 2024 receipts and expenditure report and the original report, which are combined into one exhibit. I would request that that be admitted into evidence and marked as complainant's exhibit 1.
Any objection on that being admitted? Not, so admitted, and you have to assign it a number here.
I will be passing it around as well.
Okay.
And I-
So that
Is there a way we're going to be able to see that on our end without having to jump out of the app and back into the app?
It's your,
Is it the same one that's online? Yeah.
yes, but he's asking because he's using his phone to access the Teams app. I've emailed it to you. I'm not sure. I will do my best to show it to the camera so that you can see which report I am talking about.
Do you know what it's saved as?
I emailed it to them and it is, oh, I apologize. Yes.
But we'll each get a copy of that, you're saying?
Yes, those that are in person and for, I'm making sure commissioners that are remote have access as well. It is one complainant exhibit July report. Is that what I have it titled as in the document?
July report.
Yes. Appreciate your patience. Let me pass these around. Didn't have enough. There were more in person than I was expecting.
Yeah.
I just want to look at it for a second.
Okay.
That's fine.
And let me hold up a copy for you as well. Gotta find the owl. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you see that?
Kinda, I'm trying to find my copy and.
Who is it?
I don't
This
see
first
one.
Yes, they're combined into one exhibit. The amended is on top and the original is underneath.
Does the amendment apply because Stout wasn't the treasurer at that time?
I am just keeping them for the sake of having the entire report altogether,
one-
amended and original. This is
The one in question is really the second part of
correct.
this.
Correct. I just wanted to not separate the documents.
Yeah, I get it. That's what I didn't understand.
Mhm. Yeah, yes. I will email you both again, so you have fresh copies of this.
You're gonna ask questions about this then?
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to make sure that
Okay,
they
just
have a
wanna make
copy
sure.
emailed to them. Okay. Mr. Parasher, I've sent you another email with all of the exhibits again. So hopefully it's earlier in your inbox and easier to access. Are you okay if I proceed with questions? It is to be clear, these are the reports that are available on the Secretary of State's website and the Commission's website as well. They're public documents. So Mr. Parasher and Ms. Stout, it's obviously up to the presiding member, but are you all okay with?
I'm okay with
I'm
it.
not seeing what you held up to the camera in what you emailed.
It is complainant exhibit, July report.
I'm not seeing that at all on those attachments that you just sent.
I don't
Mhm.
know what, I'm looking at it. I don't know what.
I looked at the email also, and I'm okay with going on, but I agree with Chris. It's not in what you emailed.
Well, it might be, it's just there's so many attachments that I'm having to check each one individually. Hold on.
What the name is.
Yeah, I think I found that one.
Okay,
Sorry, it's just hard to do when you're using a device and
Yeah,
multitasking between different apps.
I totally understand. I don't want to talk about something that you can't see, so I just.
That's why I'm saying what I'm saying.
Yeah, I appreciate you telling me that. Let me know when you're good.
I'm
He's good. May I proceed?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go to page 3. I'm going to read the text at the bottom of the document aloud. The very bottom of the page. Receive time, Aug, period, 9, period, 2024, 3:23 PM, NO, period, 2689. Have I read that correctly?
Yes.
And when was the August primary election?
I believe the 5th, if I remember right,
And when was the filing deadline for the August primary election?
July 29th.
Now let's discuss the facts log that respondents submitted on the alleged report filing. This has also been provided to everyone ahead of time. I'm going to give folks a bit of a buffer to find everything they're looking for. I will pull up and see what I titled it in the emails and to ensure ease of access. It is titled Complainant Exhibit Commission. Excuse me. It is titled, I just said I was talking about the respondents report.
So is this not, we haven't introduced an evidence, all right?
Yes, I'm just showing them so that we can discuss.
Okay.
Yes. So this is titled Respondent Exhibit Facts Journal Report.
I see what you, I mean, I have one copy here, but
Mhm, mhm.
just want to make sure that's what I'm.
I would request this be marked as Exhibit 2.
Any objections to entering this in evidence? So this is the facts report that they provided you.
Yes.
I haven't worked through.
Yeah, it printed funny, the email itself.
Yeah, I don't know why that first page just doesn't display correctly.
It's because it was an image put on to that, it's like a JPEG in the email. Mr. Parashow and Ms. Stout, for context, this is, as I mentioned, the facts activity log that you all had submitted to show, again, making sure we're looking at the same thing. It shows that, okay, and it took the camera away from me. Do you have that exhibit in front of you,
I do, yes.
Ms. Stout?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. And was that was admitted?
Yeah.
Thank you. Executive Director, please describe what information is included on this.
This indicates a fax that was sent from a 316 number, sent to the commission's fax line at 785-296-2548 at 7/29/2024 at 4:15:17 PM with a duration of 41 seconds, 4 pages, and indicates a result of okay.
Can you please read out the full number as that is associated with the sending fax machine?
The serial or the full phone number?
Yes.
316-260-4605.
Do you know what the okay means under the column entitled result?
Yes, okay on a fax activity log means that the fax was properly sent and received by the recipient fax machine.
I'd now like to turn your attention, and it's another bit that I would like to introduce, to the commission's fax records of the alleged report filing. I have this in, and please, commissioners, let me know if you need to know what it's titled. I'm happy to provide that. In the email to Ms. Stout and Mr. Parashow, it is titled Complainant Exhibit commission's fax activity report. I would request this be marked as exhibit 3 and admitted as well. I will pass copies around.
See it first.
Absolutely.
Any objections to hearing this?
No.
Be exhibit 3?
Are you admitting it, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Okay.
Copies. And Ms. Stout and Mr. Parashow, are you okay with me proceeding with this activity report from the commission fax machine?
I believe so.
Miss Stout, are you still there?
Yeah, I went to go look at it.
Okay.
So I can't, I'm having trouble downloading it, but I'm fine.
It is admitted, yes. Okay. And have you checked the commission's fax records from the date of the filing deadline?
Extensively, yes.
Please describe how you did that.
The activity report, you can make the fax machine print an activity report for that time frame. This is the activity report from the filing deadline and the days on either side. This indicates every fax that was received by by the commission's fax machine on the filing deadline and the days thereabout.
Does the activity log show any fax coming from the number 316-260-4605?
It does not. There are some that do not indicate a phone number, but you can use the rest of the data to determine that this fax was not received by our office.
Please elaborate on what do you mean by that, using the other information?
Sure. So there is no phone number that that phone number never appears in this activity log, but also there are only, I think, 2 faxes on the 29th that have 4 pages on them. One of them was sent at 9:39 in the morning, a far cry from the 4 in the afternoon that's listed on the fax journal report that has provided by respondents. It also came from a 620 number, which is not 316. It's not even the same area code. The duration is also different at 51 seconds. The other 4-page fax that we received on that day happened at 1:22, again, very different from 4 p.m. And a much longer transmission time of 2 minutes and 37 seconds. And that was from a 731 area code, again, drastically different than the number that was provided on respondent's fax journal report. Lastly, the time that they indicated that it occurred was 4:17 p.m. Our fax log shows no fax whatsoever being received on that date between 3:33 p.m. and 5:14 p.m. At all, indicating that our fax did not receive a fax. This fax that is indicated on this fax journal report was never sent to our office.
How can the commission's fax record from the date of the filing deadline, how does it not reflect the same information as respondents, plural, submitted fax journal?
Respondents indicate a time of 4:15:17, which there's nothing that corresponds with on our activity report. It indicates a duration of 41 seconds, which doesn't correlate. It indicates 4 pages, which doesn't correlate to anything, especially from that phone number. And it indicates a result of okay, which would indicate a successful fax. If the fax were not successful, a different result would have been indicated on their fax journal report.
There's just a couple of matters I wanted to discuss with you. No evidence. The first is I will allow, of course, I mean, Ms. Stout can speak for herself. She's here today. However, in previous conversations she's indicated that she went to a FedEx store to fax the report on the deadline. Did you follow up on that claim of faxing from a FedEx store?
I did. I called FedEx locations in Wichita to their corporate number and eventually was able to determine that the fax numbers that are available for FedEx offices in the area in which they live do not correspond with any of the fax numbers on our activity log in any way. Which
That- Sorry, go ahead.
that makes sense because none of these are even from the 316 area code that's indicated.
And I have an additional question for you, which is, I need to ask about the Secretary of State's office, as they're the official repository for the filings. Have you contacted the Secretary of State's office to check their fax records or ask them if they received the report by the deadline?
I did. They indicated that they had not received a fax for their report. I asked them to check their logs and they indicated that they had not received a report either. That makes sense because on the fax journal report that the respondents have submitted, it indicates a fax number that corresponds with the Ethics Commission's fax line.
And what number is that again?
785-296-2548.
I have no further questions for this witness. I'm not sure if the commission, I do have questions for each of the respondents as adverse witnesses. But I don't know if the commissioners wanted to ask the executive director questions now or.
They can pass too.
Yeah, you the class. So
Okay.
well, anybody else have a question? Any question?
Yeah, you're essentially saying that their fax log is bogus.
I cannot square the fax journal report provided by respondents with the actual data from our fax activity report.
Can you explain how they got this fax report?
I cannot.
Okay.
Any other questions? Because I have one.
Did they ultimately submit a report to us?
Yes, on August 9th.
And how did they submit it to us?
They submitted it via fax.
Did we have proof of that fax being received on August 9th then?
I don't think we pulled an activity log from,
I see it runs all the way to September 26th.
I think they submitted to the Secretary of State. I don't recall where they sent it.
Dodds note, I see in the fax activity from our office, August 5th, August 8th, August 13th, showing no faxes being received by us on August 9th.
I don't recall if they sent it to our office on that date or that they sent it to the Secretary of State's office.
And they can send it to either.
The Secretary of State is technically the repository. We accept things when they're sent to us and we send them to the Secretary of State's office for confirmation. But they are the repository of records.
I don't want to jump ahead from any evidence they're gonna introduce, but is there a record of a fax from them to the Secretary of State on August 13th that we're aware of?
I'm unaware of that, one way or the other. All I have is that the report that they've submitted has the received time fax notification on the bottom of their report that indicates that it was received on August 9th on Exhibit 1.
And Commissioner Jackson, I think you misspoke. You said August 13th.
Yeah.
I think August 9th is that.
Oh, okay.
Any other commissioner questions? The question I have, did you actually call the number that's on that fax and see what happens?
No,
I can say that on November, it answered on the third ring as a fax machine. So there is a fax machine somewhere that answers that number. So I don't know what that means, but that was all. I have the date here. Somewhere. Anyway.
Caitlin, was this Exhibit 1?
Oh, some of these are.
It's correct.
That's the enlarged version.
And one other,
This is, yes.
another question, if I may. Mr. Glenn,
Yes, to me.
thank you. The, are each of them treasurers?
No.
Mr. Parasho is the candidate. Ms. Stout is his treasurer.
And again, apologies for murdering your name, Mr. Parasho, was he ever the treasurer?
I don't know, but at
There
this
was-
relevant time, I believe the treasurer was Ms. Stout. Okay. Which is the important part for this.
She was only the one for that, at that period.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
So the complainants can ask questions now, is that proper? Is that the?
They can.
Did you want to ask questions?
I would like to call the respondents as adverse
But I
witnesses.
think they're able to ask.
Yeah,
I think so.
they can ask you questions now and then you can
Yeah.
do that later, right?
They
Yeah,
can-
I
they
was just,
they don't ask her questions, they ask the witness questions.
Yes.
Mhm.
So, Mr. Parisho or Ms. Stout, do you have questions of any of the exhibits that have been admitted so far?
It sounded to me like Miss Stout had some issue with something earlier. I was gonna let her speak to that first and then ask my questions.
Okay. These are just questions. Now you can present your case here in just a minute.
Mine is Mason. I just need to get something corrected, but it's not a question to him, so I'll say it when.
Okay.
And obviously feel free to correct me. This is a fact finding. If I misstated something, that's perfectly acceptable. You're not.
You
hurting my-
did, so you did,
No, yep,
so I
that's-
would
you'll
like
have
to
your time to-
correct it.
Yeah, you will definitely have your time to speak and willing to accept that correction, obviously.
So do I release Mark as a
Yes.
witness yet, or how does that go?
Well, I had a question.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
If our records that we have from our facts indicate that it went through, how are we supposed to know that on your end it didn't? Until we are contacted and said that you don't have it. I know the rule is very strict as far as receiving it, but if we have something on our end that shows that it was received, then that's what we have to go by until we find out otherwise. That's not true.
I am unaware of any instance in which a fax journal would indicate an okay unless it was actually sent and received by the recipient fax, in which case it would appear on the activity report of the recipient fax.
And machines aren't capable of making mistakes.
I think that fax machines are the devil, but I'm under oath. I think that's accurate. But it's my understanding that there isn't a scenario in which an OK would appear on the sending side activity log and not actually be received by the recipient fax properly.
Okay.
Any other questions?
May I ask a question real quick, Presiding Officer Glenn? Sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
So Executive Director Scoglin, the commission hasn't had issues like this on other occasions where someone has confirmed that they sent it and we did not receive it on the log.
I'm unaware of that happening with the fax in my over 7-year tenure.
Gotcha.
I guess I have one technical question for council here again. There's that formula that we talked about earlier about $100 for the first day, for the first 48 hours and $50 for each subsequent days. Does that apply to this matter?
Yes, this is an election sensitive. Well,
That's a civil penalty.
yep, I'm mixing them up. Easy to mix them up. The civil penalties do not, that formula calculation that we discussed earlier in the meeting. What would apply is the election sensitive guidance document, which looks at their contribution amount and determines the civil penalty
Were
based.
they ever listed for civil penalties though?
I'm sorry?
Were they ever listed on the civil penalties list that we have? I mean, why did that not happen first and then we had the complaint? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Because the election sensitive guidance document, we began filing these complaints. They were filed as soon as possible to try and encourage compliance and filing disclosures before the election happened. And civil penalties have a built-in, I don't know if grace period is the right word, but there's a certain amount of time before. Is he allowed?
Yeah, go ahead.
Explain the civil.
Yeah, so there's a 2-day grace period after which they'd receive a civil penalty. They should have received a civil penalty in this matter, separately from the fine.
But I'm not finding that in any of the records.
I don't know without pulling up our assessment log.
Okay, I was just curious about that. So any other witnesses?
I would like to call the respondents as adverse witnesses, if that would be acceptable.
But do we do that after they present their case or?
No, you can go on now.
It can be done now, okay.
It's still part of.
Okay, do we need to swear them in?
Yes, please. Thank you.
We need to swear. Council's gonna ask either or both of you questions here and you need to be sworn in as witnesses. So
Are
do
you
you,
calling both of them?
I will be calling both of them.
Yes, let's swear both of them.
yeah, swear them both in, please.
Okay, Mr. Parashah, can you please raise your right hand? Okay, you do solemnly swear, sincerely and truly declare and affirm that the testimony you shall give in the matter at issue shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and this you shall do under the pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes.
And then Ms. Stout, can you please raise your right hand? Okay, you do solemnly swear, sincerely and truly declare and affirm that the testimony you shall give in the matter at issue shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And this you do under the pains and penalties of perjury?
Yes.
First, I would like to call Mr. Parrish as a witness.
You may, go ahead, proceed.
Mr. Parrish, tell me just briefly, what role did you play in filing the original July 29th, 2024 receipts and expenditures report? That's what was marked as Exhibit 1 and is begins on the 3rd page.
The day before its deadline, I had a conversation with my treasurer and we went over what we had as far as documented funds available, donations, if any, expenses, if any, made sure that the report was as accurate as it could be and let her do her job to submit it.
So Ms. Stout was responsible for submitting the report, is that what you just said?
Yes.
Okay.
The role of the treasurer.
As the treasurer, okay. I don't have additional questions for Mr. Parrish. Well, I guess I have one additional follow-up. Did you play any role whatsoever in the submitting of the actual filing of the July 29, 2024 receipts and expenditure report?
You mean as far as the actual sending by fax?
Correct.
No, I did not.
Okay. That's all the questions I have for Mr. Parrish at this time. The way that we've combined these hearings, I let you.
Yeah. Commissioners can ask questions of him while he's still on the stand.
Yes. Yes, go ahead.
I don't have any of this.
Well, they're gonna be presenting their case for.
I know.
Go ahead.
Can you explain why it is that, you got a fax report that shows you sent the document to the Ethics Commission, but there's no record in the Ethics Commission of receiving the document?
I can only explain that our end shows that we sent it. I have no access to the Ethics Commission's end, so I can't explain anything.
Where did this document come from?
From Ms. Stout.
From Ms. Stout?
Yes.
Okay, I have nothing further.
If I may.
Okay, so
Matt, question.
go ahead. Sorry. Commissioner.
Thank you, sir. Did you ultimately submit the report?
Once we knew that it had not been received when it was supposed to be, yes, we had submitted it.
And how soon thereafter, of your knowledge, did you submit the report?
My understanding is it was within the same day that we were contacted.
And how did you submit it? Or how did you cause it to be submitted?
I didn't, my treasurer did.
All right. And she'll know whether or not how it was submitted and to where?
Correct.
Thank you.
So do I release all witnesses except them because they can stay under oath? How does that work?
I still need, I haven't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Question
I'm sorry.
Ms. Stout.
Go ahead. Any other questions?
With your permission.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Ms. Stout, thank you for appearing today along with Mr. Parrish. What role, I'm just gonna go straight to it. So on Exhibit 1, which I know you were working on getting downloaded, that is the July 29th, 2024 report, the original one. And I'm talking about the 3rd page of that. Somebody took it.
Little one?
Yeah.
With this one?
Yes. Nope, that's not it. Thank you so much. I didn't make enough copies.
Good, I agree.
Okay. To make this easier on you, I am going to get this close to the camera because this is going to be something that you're going to need to see it. On page 3, is that your signature?
Yes.
So you filed the original July 29, 2024 receipts and expenditure report for the campaign.
Correct.
Please describe how you filed or caused the report to be filed.
Okay, so this is where you did get what you said wrong. The original fax that I sent in the first time that you guys say you did not get, I sent in through my personal fax machine. I have a fax machine at home. I own a business. We use it all the time. After we got the report that we did not, or you guys did not get it, I was blown away, contacted Chris. I didn't want to risk it again. So I did go to, I believe it was a UPS store. I don't remember. Oh no, it was, like, some place close near my house. I had them fax it, and then I called and verified it was resent again. That way I had double assurance. But then I recently have contacted the manufacturer on my fax machine, and I also Googled it and sent it to Chris just a little bit ago because I was just curious if I had proof of it. They said that sometimes settings on a fax machine can be aired where it will say okay when it wasn't. Sometimes it could be a faulty line, or there's like 5 or 7 different items that they said particularly that could cause an okay when it wasn't okay. But I was never aware of that at the time. So when I seen okay, my assumptions were it went through.
Okay, so the fax journal report that was marked as Exhibit 2, that you had provided to Mr. Parashow, that's the report for your home fax machine?
Yeah, well, business, yes.
Excuse me, yes, your business. Your personal fax machine.
Correct.
Okay. And what's the number for your personal fax machine?
316-26 40. Of course, it's out of my mind now. Hold on. Three 260-4605.
Have you faxed the commission before?
On that number? Yes.
Did you have
But
issues?
it's a new machine at the time that I had just gotten it, like a couple weeks before that one.
So had you faxed the commission previously using the same fax machine with the fax journal report you've included
Yes.
before? And you did not have issues faxing the commission before?
No.
Those are all the questions.
Any other questions?
Well, I did in the past, but the problem would be, it would be busy constantly. And so I think it was 2 different numbers that I could fax to, just because it's hard to get through.
What do you mean by it was busy? Can you elaborate on
Like
that?
my fax machine would come up and say it was busy, and when it would dial, you would hear beep, 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 and so it'd hang up and try again.
Okay.
That was the only issue I've ever had in the past.
Those are all the questions that I have.
I have one more question for Ms. Stout. Do you take care to make sure the time on your fax is right, or do you just let it
Yes.
go, whatever it is? You do take care, okay?
Yes, we have to have that for our business.
Okay, just curious. Go ahead.
I just would like some clarification because at one point you said that you had faxed us from that machine previously, but then you also said that you had only gotten it a few weeks prior, which there wouldn't have been any other
Right.
reports you've been faxing us. So Can you
That-
clarify that?
I've sent it from that phone number prior. It's always a fax number line, and it is only a fax line. But it is a new fax machine at that point, which I've recently had to replace.
Have you had other issues with other people not receiving your fax?
At the time, I had not, but the reason why I got a new one is because I was having issues similar to this, but not quite exactly.
So how soon after this one was sent did you realize that you were having issues with your fax machine?
About a month after I got reported that you guys didn't get it. But I don't still, it was never an okay prior with anything else. It was just I was having constant issues of it call dropping or whatever. There was issues with it. And so I had to have it replaced for that reason.
Any other questions, Chris, or Mr. Kruger, rather?
Did you, how did you resubmit the report?
Like I said, because I didn't want to risk it, just because I'm not understanding why I get okay and it didn't go through. So I called around to find out another place I could send it through while I figured out whatever happened there. I just wanted to be on the safe side and go to another source.
But how did you do it? What did you,
Fax.
did you by fax
Yes, sir.
to the Ethics Commission
Yes.
on the 9th of August?
Yes.
Thank you.
And you said you went somewhere by your house. Where did you fax it from?
Honestly, I don't remember. It's just some convenience store. I didn't think that was in question, so I didn't look that up since you had it.
Wood shop or something.
I didn't realize Click Shops had fax machines.
Any more questions for the, okay, so we will release witnesses, but we'll leave them under oath. Is that how we do it? And so there, you have no further witnesses then? Okay. So Mr. Parisha or Ms. Stout, you can give your opening statements and present your evidence at this time.
Does Melissa want to go first?
I'll go
You decide.
I'll go first. So the day before, we were supposed to have the report done. I contacted Chris. We went through it, got it all ready. That morning, I did have a couple emergencies with my grandkids that I'm taking care of, so I was not able to send it until the late afternoon. I got it on my fax machine. It tried to go through 2 other times, if I remember correctly, but I don't want to promise that, but that's just off of memory. Then I shortly after got the report saying it went through. I knew nothing until I get a letter in the mail, and I contacted Chris, and I went and got it faxed immediately and been dealing with this since. And if I would have known that it did not go through, trust me, it would not have been late. I did my due diligence, I thought, by making sure it said okay.
Mr. Parisha?
My concern with this is the strictness of the regulation. It seems as if there's no grace period for any possible errors that could be made that are outside the bounds of the individuals doing the filing. I've dealt with the Secretary of State's office a few times as far as like submitting payments to incorporate a business or keep an incorporation active and things like that. And I know there have been issues where things haven't been received or received when they were supposed to be received because maybe they got put on a desk or sat on a fax machine for a couple of days. And I just want to make sure that the rules that we're following have at least a little bit of grace period for the event that something unexpected occurs. In this case, I'm the candidate, I'm busy out campaigning. I'm relying on my treasurer to do her job. And if there's an error with the fax machine or receiving of the fax, there should be a little bit of time between when it's due and when the notification is made that it wasn't received, that people aren't strictly held to a financial penalty for it.
Executive's opening.
That's your opening statement? Is there any evidence you want to present or any witnesses you want to call?
Me, no.
What was that again?
It's a me, no.
Oh, me, no, okay.
Sorry.
I just
Ms.
want to
Scott?
make sure the evidence is included, the facts. I don't know of the rules or whatever, if we have to say the evidence needs to be entered. I'm just making sure we're both covered there.
So, you want to proceed with your closing? No, do you do closing statements first? Oh, wait,
Yes.
so we're ready for closing statements then? You've presented everything you want to do, no evidence, no other witnesses? You rest your case, okay? So we'll proceed with closing statements and counsel, you'll go first.
Thank you. This has come down to a very pinpoint factual dispute we've seen many times, and the commission has enacted a guidance document recognizing that the public access to these reports are very important. In this instance, the report was filed after the election, which is really it deprived the public of seeing access to the campaign finance contributions. It appears that the document was not fax filed with the commission or the Secretary of State by the deadlines. And the documents, I mean, I know that we have something submitted saying, okay, again, our records don't reflect that. Director Scoglin reached out to the Secretary of State. Their records did not reflect that it had been submitted. Commission staff regularly is checking on that. The executive director thoroughly went through the fax log around the filing deadline. There's no reason presented to not believe that the commission's fax log is credible. However, the respondents have unfortunately presented inconsistencies. It's unclear if this fax machine had been used before, if a different one had been used, if there had been problems with this fax machine or not. There are just different claims that are being thrown around, and this ought to be weighed against the testimony that's offered. Because there was not a clear story that had been given on what happened with the filing of the report. Frankly, as the executive director hinted to, the fax report respondents presented fax report just doesn't appear to be correct. I wanted to address something that was brought up earlier by Commissioner Glenn, and yes, Mr. Parashow was assessed a civil penalty at the August 2023 meeting.
Okay.
Of $400 for that outstanding report. However, as executive director explained, there are different grace periods, and treasurers have a longer grace period than the candidate, which is why Ms. Stout was not seen. The commission, did what it should have. Commission staff provided notice that the report was not filed, and it was eventually filed in August with appears to be the Secretary of State based on the fax number listed at the bottom. Our office's faxes don't appear to have that. And this is an election sensitive report. So that guidance document should determine the fine amount should determine the fine amount unless the commission deems it necessary to go above and beyond that fine amount for whatever reason. Justification would need to be provided on the record. But under KSA 254152 at the end of the day, both the candidate and their treasurer are liable for the failure to file a report by the deadline, and particularly before the election. In this instance, based on the formula calculation, we'll get to that, I suppose, later, but we would just respectfully request the commission find through clear and convincing evidence that Mr. Parasho and Ms. Stout are liable under the Campaign Finance Act for not filing the July 29th, 2024 receipts and expenditure report by the deadline.
Thank you. Respondents, Mr. Parisho and Ms. Stout, you can conclude with your closing statements now. In which order, who wants to go first?
I'll go first, I guess. I guess I would point back to the fact that from the information we had based on the printout from our fax report, it was our understanding that the report had been received until we were notified otherwise. And that notification didn't take place until a few days later after the election took place. I don't see how we can be held responsible for something that we don't know is an issue until we know it's an issue. So I would ask that the commission consider that from our perspective, we believed that it had been submitted on time, the day it was due, and that until we were notified otherwise, that was our belief.
Thank you, Mr. Parisho. Ms. Stout, you can give your concluding statement now. Closing statement.
What I don't get is that she is claiming I have inconsistencies. I did not know that I needed to know how many times it tried to go through before it did, or I know I've sent it before from that phone number. That fax line is all I consider. So I'm not understanding the inconsistency. It's always been the same. I sent it. I don't know how it says okay, but that's all I knew. And to hold us liable for something when we have a document that says it went through and somehow or another we're responsible because we should have known it didn't go through, it just blows my mind. I know how important it is for the voters to get this information. Never will I discount that at all. But I am merely saying on my end, it was sent. I thought we were good. My memory may be issues on as far as what facts, how many times. I didn't know that was important just because that wasn't called to question in my mind about where I went to fax it. It was received, so I didn't think I needed to have that ready for you guys. I am a foster mom of my 5 grandchildren who have been sexually molested, and no justice for them, and my emotions are on high. So this to me is very important, but my grandbabies are way more important, and that's where my memory is going to. And I just ask you to understand it from my view. I thought it was sent. Never would I have just ignored it. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Stout and Mr. Parisho. Commissioners, we have the option to deliberate in a closed door.
Before we deliberate, may I ask a legal kind of question? You made reference to an interplay between 4152 and 4148 as creating liability on behalf of the candidate for filing. Can you explain that a little bit for us?
4152, I will pull up the text. But it states that a treasurer and the candidate responsible for reporting the same. Let me pull it up. (4152) states, except as provided in subsection B, the commission shall send a notice by registered or certified mail to any person failing to file any report or statement required, and to the candidate appointing any treasurer failing to file any such report in the time periods prescribed. I'm going to skip the sentence about notice. The next sentence says the person failing to file any report or statement and the candidate appointing any such person shall be responsible for the filing of such report or statement.
But to be clear, right now, we're deliberating an alleged violation under 4148. Correct?
4152 is the, you have to report under 4158. The violation is found in 4152.
Okay.
Any other legal clarifications? So commissioners, we have the option to deliberate in a closed door recess session under the Kansas Administrative Procedure Act. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. We'll recess into closed session to recess.
I guess that's true. Yeah,
Oh, it's recess session. So how much time?
5 minutes.
5 minutes? Okay,
The recess session motion in there, you should be able to.
modify that.
You shouldn't have to change much other than the time.
There is one in the hearings portion, that I put in at the tail end of it.
We're gonna have to keep
Hang on.
them off.
I'm not sure how that works. So I can do, you have that, I'll use that.
Hmm.
So we have to have them come back on, is that?
They'll have to leave and rejoin if you're going to.
You'll have to leave and rejoin us in 5 minutes, basically, you can hear, I move to commission recess this open meeting with conflict counsel Jesse Burris present to discuss matters for good cause as provided by KAR 1962. Justification for recess is so the commission can exercise quasi judicial functions when deliberating as contemplated by KSA 754318 G1. The open meeting shall be resumed here at 2:45. Yes. So we'll have. Oh, yeah, the second. So we'll go, so you'll have to leave the connection and rejoin us in 5 minutes. Is that okay?
If the motion passes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Everybody in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 Any, all?
One more minute.
Yeah, you can't bring up phone
Yeah.
number.
I'll get back on. Live stream is back on, but we're waiting for them to come back.
There's insert.
Risha is here.
Mhm. I will go give her a call.
Give her a call.
Mhm.
Who's-
Excuse me.
We make any of our meetings, excuse me, we make any local bar meetings. I go whenever I can, and I don't know, it's good, seems to always conflict with something, but yeah. I'm glad they
Getting
do.
back on.
Okay, good.
Oh, she's like, you scared. I was like, whatever.
This thing only started in November, yeah. This hearing started in November.
I'm going to be Christmas or something like that.
Oh.
Yep.
Can you hear? Oh, there, I know. Okay, there, we're all back. Everybody right here?
Mhm.
Okay, we're good to go. So, I would entertain a motion about this matter.
Hearing officer, as it relates to complaint number 786 and complaint number 787, I would move that we find that the complainant has failed to meet the burden of proof in both 786 and 787, and those matters be dismissed.
Second.
So before us is a motion to conclude this hearing with a finding of insufficient, clear, and convincing evidence, and therefore finding no violation. Any discussion on that motion? Take a vote, I guess. All in favor?
I think that the burden of proof has been met. I do excuse I don't think that a large fine should be imposed, maybe $1, but I do think that the burden of proof has been met.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? So the ayes have it. So thank you for your cooperation in this matter, and I guess that concludes our hearing.
Mr. Burris, are you okay?
Did I need
Can
to?
we authorize Mr. Burris to draft the dismissals?
Oh yeah, I don't have that on my.
Sorry. it's probably-
I'd move it.
Bottom of the hearing script should be on the bottom of the script. Somewhere.
I have my modified version of the problem.
I would move though that on behalf of the commission, that through our hearing officer, Mr. Glenn, that Mr. Burris is given the responsibility to prepare the dismissal of both of these matters.
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All opposed? The ayes have it. So that concludes this hearing.
Turn back over.
And do what? Oh, turn it back over to Commissioner Hale.
Well done, Mr. Grant.
And
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner Glenn. Thank you for serving as the hearing officer in this matter. Mr. Parisho and Ms. Stout, you are welcome to stay or to leave. We have another hearing that we will be embarking on next. Thank you for your time and your participation today. Do you have any questions of the commission at this time?
I would just like some clarification as the result of the hearing.
Oh,
So,
It looks like there's some confusion on at least one face, and I'm trying to
So,
make sure we.
yeah, just to be clear, let's say the complainant did not meet the burden of proof by vote of the commission, and so the charges are dismissed.
Does that include the fines and penalties that were imposed?
Correct. There are no fines and penalties, if that's correct.
There are no new fines, but it's the $400 civil penalty that was previously assessed on the candidate currently is still in place. If the commission were to give him
Yeah.
leave to file a waiver request on the penalty, they could choose to do so, but obviously a penalty waiver is not the same question as a complaint.
Okay, thanks for that clarification, Director Skoglund. Any
there a
further
motion?
questions?
Do we need a motion for that?
Motion to give him leave to file.
He would submit the waiver request and the commission could choose to hear it out of time if they wanted to.
Okay.
Because he received the penalty quite some time ago.
So I move that,
We don't need to move.
Oh.
He just needs to know that he can file a waiver request if he wants to and ask the commission to hear it out of time.
do you understand that, Mr. Parisho?
Is there a form that I need to submit?
We can help you with that.
Give the commission a call.
I'm not sure.
Okay,
All
all right. Well, thank you again.
And we'll encourage them to hear it.
okay.
Okay,
We'd support that.
turning back to the agenda, we have the additional hearing, complaint 790 involving Irma Alanis. And I believe I am the presiding hearing officer in this matter, and I gather that the respondent is not present today.
Correct.
Have we received any communication?
We have not received any response from her whatsoever, other than her signature on the certified mail.
Okay, so is it your recommendation that we proceed with a formal hearing despite her non-participation?
Yes, we have reached out to her many times, and our investigator continued to follow up with her as well. And she has submitted a statement regarding probable cause, that was presented to the commission back in the fall. Otherwise, we've heard nothing from her, but I see no issue in proceeding.
Okay. Well, I will just go ahead and follow form and take us through the proceeding, and this one should go quicker than our last one, given the non-participation. My name is Nick Hale, and I am the appointed presiding officer of this matter, complaint 790, Mark Skoglund, complainant versus Irma Alanis, respondent. I hereby call this hearing to order. Would the parties please enter their appearances? Caitlin?
Yes, Caitlin Bull Stewart appearing on behalf of the complainant, Mark Skoglund, executive director. Mark Skoglund, as the executive director, also appears as a witness, and the respondent is not in the room or on the.
Noted for the record that the respondent is not present today. This matter is a complaint hearing before the Kansas Governmental Ethics Commission. This hearing will be conducted according to the provisions of the Kansas Administrative Procedures Act. The applicable burden of proof is that affirmative findings of fact by the commission shall be based on clear and convincing evidence. This hearing is being recorded, therefore responses to questions must be verbal, as the audio video recorder does not pick up on nods, unclear responses, and other gestures. Complainant will provide an opening statement. Complainant will present evidence subject to cross-examination where appropriate. The commission is not bound by technical rules of evidence. Commissioners may ask questions during each side's presentation of evidence subject to the presiding officer's discretion. Complainant will then provide a closing statement. After closing statements, the commission shall deliberate and will issue an order within 30 days, including findings of fact and conclusions of law. I may allow the parties to submit proposed orders within 7 days of the hearing date. If appropriate, I may keep the hearing open and allow the parties to submit briefing within 30 days of the hearing. The commission will meet as soon as practical after the submission of any such briefs in order to deliberate. With that, we'll begin the hearing. And does the complainant wish to make a sworn proffer of the facts?
Yes, absolutely. Do I have your permission to proceed?
Sure.
Okay. And when we get to the executive director, we will take him under oath again.
Okay.
So first, Irma Alanis was the Register of Deeds for Meade County, Kansas, and was also candidate for Meade County Register of Deeds in the 2024 election cycle. And she has admitted, as the both in her probable cause statement and various times to commission staff, that she used public funds in violation of KSA 25-4169 when she made copies of her campaign flyers on the Meade County, Kansas, the county's copier and printer. This would constitute one Campaign Finance Act violation for the misuse of public funds to engage in express advocacy. Misusing public funds to produce campaign materials is a betrayal of public trust. Essentially, the focus of that statute boils down to you use taxpayer money to do the job that you have been elected for, not for your own election. As far as proffer goes, as both an employee of a municipality or county in Kansas and as candidate for public office, Ms. Alanis subjected herself to the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission under the Campaign Finance Act. She herself is also a resident of the state of Kansas, so personal jurisdiction is proper. As I mentioned as well, Ms. Alanis has signed herself with a recognizable signature under this for her certified mail, both of the original notice of hearing and of this rescheduled notice of hearing, which she signed in December. Service was proper as reflected in the proposed report and order, which I submitted to the commission back in October when this was originally scheduled. There will need to be some updates to that, but we'll get there later. And was made to Ms. Alanis at the address listed on her candidate's declaration of intention filing form. The only real thing she disputes in her probable cause statement that she sent to the commission was the amount of flyers that she copied. The information we were given does not match up with the information she provided. The executive director has no issue stipulating to 75. It's not necessarily the amount of copies, it's about the principle and the act itself, the conduct that needs to be deterred rather than the quantity of things produced. KSA 25-4169 little a, not subsection A, is the statute that prohibits the use of public funds to expressly advocate the nomination or election or defeat of a candidate, clearly identified candidate to state or local office. Phrasing it differently, a government employee cannot use the supplies and equipment of the government in which they are employed by to expressly advocate for a candidate. This can be, in this case, Ms. Alani's was a candidate and an employee of the municipality, Meade County. Therefore, she was subject to this prohibition. Her campaign for Register of Deeds was a campaign for a local office as is defined by KSA 254143Q, our definition statute, because Meade is a county. Further, the copier and that printer constituted public equipment or supplies under the plain language of 254169A. As previously mentioned, Ms. Alani's did submit a probable cause statement to the commission on September 11th. She does indicate that in July, she made copies of her campaign flyers by using the copier and printer in Meade County. She admitted to engaging in the Campaign Finance Act violation at issue. She simply disputed the amount. So she does not dispute that she violated the Campaign Finance Act. Additionally, she admits the copier and printer in that statement, which you all have in your folders. She admits in that probable cause statement that the copier, printer, and paper belonged to Meade County, Kansas, and she used that equipment to copy her campaign flyers for her Register of Deeds campaign. Her campaign flyers were attached to the probable cause statement. Since I'm just doing a proffer, if any commissioners would like to see it, I'm happy to provide a fresh copy of it. Is that a yes, you would like?
No.
To? Okay.
I look at it.
Finally, the campaign flyers expressly advocated the nomination, election, or defeat of a clearly identified candidate to state or local office, as that phrase is defined in our definitional statute 254143 sub J, which defines express advocacy, expressly advocating for the nomination, election, or defeat of a clearly identified candidate, as meaning any phrases including but not limited to, and it gives a laundry list of phrases such as vote for your Secretary of State, re-elect your senator. The campaign flyers that Ms. Alani's used explicitly state re-elect Irma Alani's for Register of Deeds, clearly falling within one of the enumerated examples of express advocacy. Now, with the permission of the presiding member, Commissioner Hale, I would like to swear the complainant in for his testimony regarding the complaint.
Well, before we do that, and thanks for the proffer of the facts as, let's say, an a formal evidentiary hearing with the respondent president would bear out. Do any of the commissioners have questions or take issues with any of the proffered facts raised?
So the number of copies is just irrelevant for the most part from the discussions.
We would.
Mr. Chairman, if that was the proper, I think that we really don't need any further testimony.
Well, that was kind of where I was getting at. While I appreciate Director Skogland's availability, unless you think that there's a reason why he's going to say anything materially different from your proffer, I would suggest, based on past precedent, that we entertain a motion to find the respondent in default and based on their non-appearance, and with the sworn proffer of facts, that a sworn proffer of facts would present in at an evidentiary hearing.
Yes.
I would agree.
Any commissioners differ from that?
No, I do have a question. I saw some note that she delivered a ream of paper and a printer cartridge or something like that.
Is that a question?
That's a question.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. As that was included in her probable cause statement, we have not seen any evidence supporting that claim whatsoever from her, and she has not responded to us anymore.
So she just made the claim.
Yes.
What did it include the cartridge to, though? I don't remember that part.
I will pull it up so that we don't avoid misstating.
Yeah.
Or she's been to
After she was called out.
So some restitution.
helpful.
Well, on the finding of liability, do any of the commissioners wish to make a motion
I would so move.
Second.
Motion has been made to find liability, and that has been seconded. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the motion to find the respondent liable for the alleged violations as made in the complaint, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The motion passes. We now have the issue of a civil fine to be imposed on the respondent. Does staff have a recommendation?
With permission.
Yes.
I would say a range, I would propose a range between 500 and 1,000. I'll tell you the history of our previous fine assessments. We've assessed $100 in the last instance on the violation of this statute in 2020 for a use of digital letterhead that was produced by the state, which is obviously a fairly minimal violation. We assessed $1,000 for use of a a state email, and then back quite a long time ago, we assessed $200, $200, $500, and in one instance in 2001, we assessed $25. So the normal range here that we're talking about is in that lower end between $200 and $1,000. In my personal view, this is a more severe violation than someone taking a computer home and sharing a post on social media. When I give state employee ethics trainings, the last thing I always cover is this statute. And when I get to supplies, I have always said, well, no one is printing campaign flyers at work and in any room that gets a laugh, even at the end of an ethics training, which says something.
Yeah.
But I can't say that anymore because of this particular complaint. So I view this as something that people generally know is a violation. She would have been on notice for a variety of different reasons. I would think that 500 to 1,000 is a good range, and I probably would lean more on the higher end of that, but I think anywhere in that range would be reasonable for this. I wouldn't do above 1,000 personally in my recommendation.
Okay. Do any commissioners wish to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we impose a fine of $750.
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Any additional discussion?
Just the only comment that, while profoundly seemed like, how could you not realize this is an issue? Even after, I mean, albeit while she was called out, she did come and provide ream of paper and maybe not a printer cartridge. I think 750 is too high. I'll vote against it just for that reason.
Okay. Well, the motion has been seconded. Wait, I think I was hearing some additional comments.
Yeah, I just had a question which I think pertains to the pending motion. And sorry if I missed this. Did she make any effort to engage? I know she didn't. She's defaulted. She's not here today to defend herself either in person or telephonically, but has she been cooperative? Can you provide any more color in that regard? Sounded like no, but just anything else you can say, maybe.
Very beginning, she was responding to the investigator, and then
She's gone dark, it sounds like.
yes,
And for about how long has she been ignoring us?
That's the PC statement.
yeah, since September, mid-September.
Okay.
It's the last we heard from her.
Thanks. That's way out there. I Googled it. I had to look it up where it is. Yeah. In between Liberal and Dodge City.
South of Dodge City.
Commissioner Berger, what would you think would be a more appropriate fine amount?
We should vote on the pending motion and see if it passes at the 750, and then I can voice something.
At the same time, it would be nice to just consider an alternative. I know in the past, sometimes we've had a temporal constraint that would provide for a reduction if paid within a certain interval of time, maybe 30 days. I don't know if that's something that we should consider here, or if
I'd be willing to go as high as $200.
Yeah, I was leaning towards under 500, just given the historical context that Director Skoglund was providing, and just we don't know the number of copies. Yeah, obviously she shouldn't have been copying on this, but she tried to do restitution and different matters. I don't know. just.
Commissioner Solbach, do you maintain your motion as it, in its current wording form, or would you want to provide a provision that required for a reduction to a different interval if paid within a certain amount of time?
With the consent of my second, I would move that we impose a fine of $750, reduced to $200 if paid within 30 days.
Do we have a second support of that?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any additional discussion? We'll take a vote on the motion. All in favor of approving the motion to find a civil fine of $750 reduced to $200 if paid within 30 days, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Believe the motion passes.
Chairman, Mr. Chairman, may I guess you're still in your presiding member hat.
Sure.
I would request permission to alter according to the dates and the default provisions, but to draft the proposed the commission report in order, subject to your review, of course.
Sure.
Do we need a motion for
Yes.
that, Mr. Chairman? I would so move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Any additional discussion? All in favor of approving the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The motion passes. Believe the hearing in this matter is now closed, unless there are any outstanding issues. And with that, thank you everyone for your participation. Returning back to our agenda, now that we have concluded the civil fine hearings, the next item was executive session. We can get back into this, but do we have a recommendation of time? The time that I currently have is 3:09.
Yeah, just for ease of the fluidity of the meeting, do we want to do general topics now, since that's an open meeting item? And then after we'll knock out the recusal reg, then we go into executive session, then recess session, and then we can all go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll work.
That's fine by me. We will just go straight to general topics. And the first sub item was a procedural regulation subcommittee update. Who do we want to give the update here?
I can give that. So
Okay,
we've
Commissioner
met,
Berger.
thank you. We've met in December, we met in January and focused primarily, these really fit together very, overlap to discuss the recusal regulation. That's all we've talked about. There's a draft that's part of our materials. That draft is truly for discussion purposes. We have concepts that are in there that we all do not necessarily agree or disagree with. So it is open for everyone to talk about. I think I have already submitted some responses to it, which are part of the OneDrive. And so I would invite everybody on the commission and to our vast audience who are watching to put in whatever comments they may have to this recusal draft regulation.
So we go to OneDrive and just edit that Word document directly? No?
Good question.
Great question. To avoid issues of violating the open meeting law.
Yes.
So for example, Commissioner Berger, I added his comments in today, once the meeting had began. So, you all can, I would recommend, Jesse, please correct me if you think a better course is there. Everybody has access to the folder. Not everybody has access to my personal inbox. I would recommend you email them to me and I will compile them all together. I am not opening them. And then the moment that we have our meeting, I will move them into the open materials so that we can all see.
Coma's great.
Yeah.
Does that sound fair? That avoids the serial communication issue. Yeah, that would allow us, and if anybody has a better idea of how to do it, I am completely open to that, because it feels a little clunky, but we gotta do what we gotta do. So I also wanted to remind everyone that I don't want to steal Commissioner Berger's suggestions, but we also have blasted on the website. We're accepting all public comments on the procedural regulations through Thursday, February 6th, which is coming up. Just wanted to shout that out for those that are paying attention online and our very lively audience here today.
We actually have a fair number of viewers today.
Excellent.
It's been done.
What a great time to fix that.
Hi, everyone.
Commissioner Berger, you can
So how do we
And
ask
that-
questions for clarification?
have those.
You submit those?
If you want to have a list and send them to me, I'm glad to open them in the meeting and answer questions as we go through. You
Okay.
can create a running
The last
list.
sentence in C4. And
You can ask it right now. I mean,
that's what I was
Yeah,
gonna say.
this
Good.
is a great time for discussion.
We're in open
And
meeting.
then, in A4, there's a complaint that's repeated twice. You need to get rid of knock on.
Typo, okay.
But I just didn't get so this is in C4, just that last, this does not include investigatory, ministerial. I just didn't know how that fit into anything.
So the concept behind that has to do with making certain that when there's a staff member who is investigating or performing just ministerial functions or just administrative functions, that they don't find themselves thereby disqualified for those.
Oh, I understand it. I understand it. I just didn't, okay, I get it.
And thereby precluding the
I got it.
foundation
Got it.
evidence.
Thank you. The bill
Where was the duplicated?
is in A4, I think.
Yes, yes.
A complaint. I got stopped there last time.
Really wanted to emphasize
Well, my brain skipped over the second one, so
I
I
know, Julie,
appreciate
you
the, okay. Good to know.
that document has been in a lot of track changes, so.
Yeah, we do strongly encourage just any recommendations, whether from commissioners or from the public, that could help guide the final iteration of what this regulation will look like. And just as background, I'll just remind everybody that it was Commissioner Berger, Commissioner Helmer, myself, along with Caitlin and with Executive Director Skoglund that participated in those subcommittee meetings that have brought us to this point. But yeah, we absolutely feel like input is very valuable for the ultimate final version.
And I guess the last line of G, it says, make a reasonable effort to keep informed about your personal economic interests of your relatives. I wasn't exactly sure how I'm gonna do that, but it is what it is.
Relatives is defined in the definition
Well, I
section
mean-
to keep it as,
Yeah, but I have 3 siblings in Topeka. I don't know how much do they want me to know about what they're doing?
Does say reasonable.
But exactly.
Well, that's the sort of thing that is for the discussion,
exactly.
Yeah.
because those are really policy issues,
Yeah.
not so much verbiage issues. So I guess I'll re-emphasize that we're not, this is not, we don't love it or hate it. This is not meant to be, oh, we're just gonna figure out where the commas go. These are for policy discussions that the commission makes.
Yeah, I want to make sure that, I really appreciate all the work the subcommittee has done. It's really been great work, and Caitlin's put in a ton of effort on this too, and I really appreciate all of that. But yeah, this is any and all comments, I think, will make this as good as it can be, to really dig into this. So
And is this new or is this something we're adding?
it's a new
A
regulation.
new regulation. And what was the motivation? Just we need to do it?
We
The,
should do it anyway, but it's statutorily required now.
Okay, that's what
yeah,
that's
Yeah.
what.
And it's pretty close to a home brew. So
Yeah.
it can work.
mhm.
So just to frame expectations, we will revisit. What's that?
It was a home brew, Commission, or Chairman Hale.
Okay,
Just saying. Never mind.
Okay.
Withdrawn.
okay.
This is the point in the meeting, isn't it?
We might need a break.
Well, we will revisit this issue in our next meeting. Is that the
Mhm.
plan? Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We want to take a break?
All we've got is executive session and recess session, and I think recess will be short.
We want to enter into executive session?
That would
First-
allow for free breaks.
Yeah. Why don't we factor that in? And with the time being 3:16 right now, for executive session, what time would we look to specify as at least the initial end?
To clarify, I think Commissioner Jackson has asked for a different executive session. Is this the executive session that we already had on the agenda?
Yes.
Okay,
Litigation update. or
litigation related.
personnel.
Yeah, we make the
Yeah.
same old motion from last time.
So are we doing them combined?
We.
No.
Well, I know, but this is just a motion for the litigation update one.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was just about.
When you gave me so little.
Yeah,
I didn't give you that one. That was.
Oh. Who gave me this executive
I
session?
gave you that
Is that
executive
what I was-
session, and that is correct. We will have a different one to read for the other session
Okay.
that Jesse has.
So let's do the litigation update executive session. Sure.
Yeah, that's okay.
And what was the
And what time?
I'm sorry. I think we should 3:19 now. It's almost 3:20. 3:45.
Okay.
Okay,
I move that the commission recess this open meeting to executive session. The subject to be discussed during the executive session is the commission's state district court litigation. The justification for closing the meeting is the need for consultation with the commission's counsel about matters that would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship as contemplated by KSA 75-4319B2. Office Manager Paige Quintana Paget, Executive Director Mark Scoglin, General Counsel Caitlin Bull Stewart, and Conflict Counsel Jesse Burris are to be admitted to the executive session to aid the commission in this discussion. The open meeting shall be resumed at 3:45 p.m.
do I have a second? Motion has been seconded. Any additional discussion? All in favor of approving the motion, signify by saying aye.